26-foot long glowing creature approaches the divers and denies to leave. Long before humans ever learned to swim or to cross the rivers and the oceans, that unknown waters have been a challenge that we always tried to win. The immense depth of the ocean and the almost never-seen creatures have been an intriguing side. Even today, the aquatic animals that one might see in the aquariums are just a handful of species from the sea. The truth is that there are still so many unusual sea creatures that stay in the deep, dark waters, and that's good for them as well as for humans. What if one such rarely seen sea creature pops on the surface of the ocean right next to the shores? What if it's too huge to be true? Well, recently, one 26-foot-long sea creature appeared on the coast of New Zealand. A little boy always got excited about the mysterious and weird sea stories, but his family always told him not to believe in those. Years later, he inherited an island from his grandfather, who knew that these stories he heard during his childhood were indeed true. And he was not only about to discover the reality, but also going to record it for the rest of the world to believe in his words. How often people get as lucky as Andrew Buttle, a 48-year-old man who inherited an island. This island is located in New Zealand that once belonged to Andrew's grandfather and now to Andrew. He made up his mind to explore his island. Being an expert in diving, he couldn't ignore his inner voice as the sea was calling him. Andrew invited his friend Steve Hathaway, who too was an expert sea diver. Both of the men were eager to start their adventure underwater. They didn't want to take anyone out with them as they were pretty sure that they can handle it all on their own. Yes, they had been to the seas before, but what these two were about to encounter that day was an unseen creature. Andrew and Steve started their journey from the shore of Waikari, which is also known as the White Island. It took them hardly 15 minutes to reach the location from where they were going to dive into the sea. This duo has been going for adventures throughout their lives, but that day what they were going to encounter down there was going to be the biggest adventure of all times. Andrew and Steve put their diving suits on and got into the freezing water. The whole thing started when they were 32 feet deep in the sea. That's when they noticed something rapidly swimming in their direction. What was it? It happened when they were nearby the seabed that a mysterious thing caught one of their attention. Within seconds from far off distance, this thing was right next to them. The moment Andrew turned around, he noticed a huge-sized white-colored gelatinous deep-sea worm. This thing wasn't supposed to be there, and Andrew was scared to death. He immediately swam towards Steve. Andrew swam towards Stephen, who was not even aware of the company that they were in. The scene was terrifying, and none of the men ever saw anything like this before. Even though Andrew too was stunned, he remembered that he had heard of a similar gigantic creature like this quite a lot of time before. What did he hear? And from whom? Andrew recalled that his grandfather once told him a story about a sea creature that was exactly similar to what he and his friend were seeing swimming right in front of them. He immediately gave a signal to Steve, who was confused about why in the world would Andrew like to stay in the water. Wasn't his life precious to him? Andrew told Steve that his grandfather once told him a story wherein he said that this sea creature had been surprising the divers by its strange actions. According to Andrew's grandfather's story, this sea creature never hurt anyone. Yes, it was too big, and it was hard to believe that something like this will not harm them. While Andrew was telling Steve about his grandfather's words, Steve was not ready to believe what Andrew's grandfather told him. According to Steve, if this creature was indeed harmless, then why would it come so close to them? Steve was trying to maintain adequate distance from this bizarre creature that popped out of the blues. This creature was extending its body all around the divers. The light-colored creature looked like a thick, long, sparkly rope floating in the ocean. Yes, it was a majestic view, but the extremely big size of this creature was making Andrew and Steve nervous. They had no way to save themselves if this creature attacks them. Steve asked Andrew, who seemed too excited to see this weird creature, to stay away from it and head back to their boat. After all, any person who values his or her life would do the same. Andrew couldn't get over his grandfather's words and wanted to know if what he said about this sea creature was right or not. This could be a life or death moment for him, as this unusual creature was more than 3 or 4 times of both of their heights. This marine creature had a cylindrical cone-like body, and Steve described it as a hollow, windsock-like creature. This creature could grow to unexpected lengths and tend to be great swimmers, whether it is near the shores or in the deep sea. On top of everything, Andrew's intentions were not at all giving signs that he wanted to get back to his boat. What would Steve choose to do in such a dramatic situation? Will he leave Andrew alone and with that creature, or will they ever make it out of the sea? Not knowing about the existence of any such living organism made it hard for Steve to believe in all that was going on in front of him was real. Steve recalled that scary moment and said, having never seen one in person, or even footage or photos before, I was quite incredulous and elated that such a creature existed. Andrew, on the other hand, was ready to take a closer look at this thing. Whatever this thing was, it was not at all ready to leave. This thing was serious, and how would you react if we tell you that this creature was about to follow Andrew and Steve a long way? Now the question is, what does it even want from them? While Steve was completely clueless about what this creature was, Andrew made his guess. He was thinking that it was a pyrosome, but aren't pyrosomes supposed to be too small in size? How come this one pyrosome grew this long? Well, Andrew's guess was right. It was a giant pyrosome. He wrote about these being free-floating colonial tunicates that live usually in the upper layers of the open ocean and warm seas, although some may be found at greater depths. So, this pyrosome didn't belong near the coast. Rather, it should be in the deep sea where humans rarely dive. Andrew was unbelievably there right in front of this pyrosome. He convinced Steve to stay there for a while. Steve started filming all that was about to take place there. They had no clue that it was going to become a video that the world will be watching with so much of shock soon. This was once-in-a-lifetime moment for them. Steve, no matter how much scared he was, also agreed that he might never be able to see anything like that ever again. So, they were ready to observe this creature from a distance. But what they didn't know was that this pyrosome soon enough noticed them and got into action. In order to film the pyrosome closely, Steve went too close to it. He said, it was very puzzling but also fantastic to be able to view it right up close and spend so much time with it. That's when he realized that in an effort to get a clear footage of this creature, he got too close to it. When Steve swam too close to it, the giant pyrosome noticed both the divers. It started to swirl around them as if it was showing off how long it can be. They couldn't forget this moment anyway. Andrew said, without a doubt, the highlight of the trip was to find the pyrosome. I've wanted to see one for many years now. Andrew and Steve knew that they were encountering something that rarely anyone else does, but what they didn't know was how extremely lucky they were. Have you ever seen any of these types of images before? No, right? And an important person after hearing of their encounter said what made it clear that both of the friends were in luck that day. The founder of Young Ocean Explorer told that getting so close to one of the giant pyrosome is a rare sighting. Even though these creatures stay near to the surface most of their lives, they never get this close to humans. So far, no one ever got any such thing filmed before. Hence, Andrew and Steve were in so much luck that day. Pyrosomes are one of the strange species that still amuses not only common people but also the biologists. This organism is made of a bunch of more than hundreds or even thousands of tiny organisms that are known as zooids. This forms a gelatinous tunic, so comparing a pyrosome with a tube is the right thing anyway. Pyrosomes are not always alone, rather they live with the help of teamwork most of the times. The zooids live on plankton, their food. The plankton ones get inside this tube before they could make its way out of the tube. The filtered liquid is pushed back. As all the zooids work together, they are able to feed themselves and survive. You'll be surprised to know that pyrosomes are not so rare after all. In recent years, their population has increased at a faster pace. They have started adapting the colder area for their living, and that's how they have expanded to the Pacific Ocean and the west coast of the US. Their increased population has taken them all the way to Alaska, a place where they were never seen before. But these days, not only the zooids get together to form a pyrosome, but they can also further form a superpyrosome cluster. This is one quality that has been increasing problems for the fishermen. They get along in the form of a huge group where dozens of pyrosomes are attached per square meters. This formation allows them to travel much farther and can cover a much bigger volume of the ocean. In 2017, after several types of research, the main cause of the financial crisis of the Pacific Northwest fishing industry was concluded to be the increasing population of the pyrosomes. Most of the times, the fishermen get pyrosomes in their net and it consumes most of their time to detach them from the fishing net. But Andrew observed something about his encounter which was worth sharing. Occasionally they are caught in nets, but not many intact large specimens have been caught to my knowledge, told Andrew. They stayed in the water for over an hour and the giant pyrosome wasn't in the mood of letting them go. Therefore, Andrew and Steve decided to head towards the surface, and it was time to leave the friendly, peaceful giant behind and get back to their normal lives. But that was not going to happen, as the pyrosome wasn't that easy going to say goodbye. When they reached the surface, the pyrosome followed them till the time they entered in the boat. The pair wanted to stay, but it was time to go back to their homes. They left the pyrosome behind, who can be seen on the surface in the above image. When they reached home, they saw it. It was more than an hour-long video. Andrew wanted to show it to the world, but in the right manner. He knew that no one will watch a 1-hour video, and he had to do something about it. Andrew edited the video and managed to keep the amazing shots in it. The result that he came up with was so beautiful video that was going to win millions of hearts. Some people thought of this video to be quite funny, the rest thought of it to be scary. Anyway, the video went viral. The majestic creature that was shown in the video, the number of views that the video received, made Andrew and Steve realize the wonderful thing they had been a part of. People were amused to see this creature. Andrew recalled his grandfather, who always told him stories of the sea world. Andrew said that if his grandfather was alive today, he would have been so proud of Andrew. After all, it was one of the things his grandfather believed in existed, and it really does.